sure. So thank you everyone for showing up to our event today. This is going to be a collab event with DubsTech and Bits. I'm Chris. I am the president of Bits, and Michelle.
Yeah, hi. I'm Michelle. If you've heard me, I talk a lot. I'm the current president of DubsTech, and we are collabing with Bits today, and the Tableau employees, Megan and Julianne.
Yeah, so both of them are both solution engineers at Tableau, and then I'm going to just have them kind of introduce themselves for a little bit, and then we'll get started with what they have to present to us today.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Julianne Werner. Chris just gave a great introduction already, but as he said, I'm a solution engineer at Tableau Software. I've worked at Tableau full-time for a year. My one-year anniversary is actually in 2 days, so that's super exciting. Before that, I worked at Tableau as an intern on a different team, so I guess you could kind of say in total I've worked at Tableau for about 1.5 years. And I also have with me Megan Kelly, and we're on the same team, but I'll have Megan go ahead and introduce herself, and then we'll get started and kick off our workshop tonight.
Awesome. Thank you, Julianne. So like she said, my name is Megan Kelly. I'm also a solution engineer. I'm based out of Seattle. Julianne and I both support the SMB team here on the West, which just means small, medium businesses. So to kind of kick things off, I guess it's really important for you guys to at least recognize, kind of what Tableau is, who we are, and kind of what our mission statement is. So let me begin sharing my screen. Uh-oh, I'm seeing a bunch of little error things. Let's see if this one will work.
Now it should work.
Let's see. Give me just a second. I don't know what is. Oh my goodness. I need to exit the meeting and jump back in. Julianne.
No problem. I got you. No problem. Well, while Megan is coming out and then coming back in, I want to make sure that everyone was able to download Tableau Desktop. If you were having any issues, could you maybe put that in the chat or come off mute quickly and let me know? Also, throughout the demonstration, feel free at any time to ask questions. Whichever one of us is not presenting is going to be checking the chat. So if you got lost on something or have more questions, we'll definitely have time to go over those and be able to help you. But hopefully you were all able to get Tableau Desktop downloaded. And if not, you can go ahead and do that right now.
Alrighty, I am back and ready to go. Alrighty, so I'm going to share my screen, and I'm actually going to do it this time. Alrighty. Okay, so like I said, we need to kind of first level set on really what Tableau is, who we are, and really kind of what our main goal is. So Tableau is a software organization that really helps people and organizations become more data-driven. So we have a suite of products that's going to help unleash human creativity by really giving the power of analytics to you at your fingertips. So Tableau has a really unique take on business intelligence in the sense that it really allows everyone to discover insights within their data, not just heavy technical users like analysts. So Tableau is a really easy product to use. It's both really powerful and intuitive, which is why we have such a huge following and why people love using our products. So with all of that being said, now that you understand kind of who we are, what we're doing, I'm going to begin introducing our product suite. So when you think of really kind of the journey that your data is going to take through some type of visualization tool in some sense, it's always almost always going to start with your data being housed or stored in some type of data source. Whether that's a data source that's hosted out in the cloud, it's a server base, stored locally on your machine, or if it's even like a flat file, something like Excel. Wherever your data is being housed, Tableau is more than likely able to connect to it and help you with your analysis. So we have our data housed in one place. Now you can think of your data just, kind of being messy. It's not clean. Fields aren't really showing the way they should be. This is when Tableau's first product is going to come into play. So Tableau Prep or Tableau Prep Builder, I'll be using those a little interchangeably, is a light ETL tool that allows you to shape, size, split fields, clean your data, pivot fields, all of that good stuff using the same drag and drop functionality that you're going to see throughout Tableau's entire platform. Now, the unique thing about Tableau Prep is that you don't need to know any coding to use our products, which is really unique because we have a lot of competitors that require you to have heavy SQL coding or even to be familiar with their own syntax. We don't require that by any means. And I feel like this is really how Tableau becomes such a standout product, is that we're unleashing analytics, not just to technical users, people who are familiar with data. It's for anyone to use. So we have our data piped into Tableau Prep Builder. We have made some cleaning steps. Our data is ready to go. You're ready to start getting some insights into that. That is when Tableau Desktop is going to come into play. So typically when people think of Tableau, Tableau Desktop is actually the product that they're thinking of. This is our flagship product. So, it's our gold standard as far as visual analytics. It's where you're going to really unleash that creativity and really dig into your data and get those insights. So all the content creation, dashboarding, creating maps, all the fun stuff, at least I think it's fun, the fun stuff you're going to be doing with your data, most of it will be handled here within Tableau Desktop. So then moving on from here, you have some content, you're ready to share that with the world. You're like, I want to send this out to my manager. I'm so happy with it. That is when our sharing collaboration piece is going to come into play. So as far as sharing and collaboration, there are two ways that we can go about deploying this. We have what's called Tableau Server, which is going to be an on-premise or hosted in, a public cloud of your choosing. And all of the hardware, the maintenance, upgrading, all of the stuff that typically an IT department handles is going to be unloaded onto you. So it's going to be your organization's responsibility to, manage your server, update it, make sure that, everything's good to go. It's going to be on your IT team. And on the kind of other side of that, we have Tableau Online, which is going to be a cloud service that's going to be hosted by us. So all of that backend maintenance, upgrading, deployment time, standing your server up, you don't have to worry about any of that. That is all going to be taken care of by Tableau. So when we have a lot of small businesses, specifically in the unit that Julianne and I work in, we see organizations that, their entire company is 5 people. They don't have an IT department. They don't have a whole lot of experience with that. How are they going to stand up an entire server? Well, that's how Tableau Online really came into play, is for people who don't have those IT resources, but they want to be able to have the same insights, the same flexibility. That's kind of where Tableau Online comes into play. Now, with that being said, we're going to be spending most of your time today in Tableau Desktop and our other way of sharing your dashboards, which is going to be using Tableau Public. So Tableau Public is exactly what it sounds. it's going to be a place for you to publish these dashboards to a public website. So when I say public, I mean anybody can access it. Anybody can see your data. Anyone can see your visualization. So Tableau Public is really great for when you're getting started with some sample data, you want to get some insights or feedback from other people, but it is not where you want to use any kind of trade secret or sensitive data. So with that being said, before I move on, does anybody have any questions about the platform? Not a problem. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to, drop them in the chat. Julian and I will be monitoring that. We'll be able to respond, or, I'll take periodic breaks throughout and you can kind of stop me and ask questions then. Alrighty. So moving on from here, we've talked about Tableau Desktop and Tableau Public and how that's where we're going to be spending most of our time today. So let's just go ahead and get this thing started. Alrighty, so right now you are going to be looking at the interface of Tableau Desktop. Now, if everyone could open up Tableau Desktop, that would be great. Just going to give everyone a moment or two. Alrighty. So this is going to be that home interface you see once you launch Tableau Desktop. Right in the middle of the screen, you're going to see any of those workbooks that I've been working on recently. I've been working on a project with Forbes, so both Julianne and I have. So you can see some of our work here. We also have our Discover pane on the right-hand side of the screen, which is going to be a plethora of free training videos and resources to help you guys get started, really to further more kind of dive into Tableau, post-call. We also give you little reminders when it's time to update and move on to the next version, which clearly it's time for me to do that. And the most important piece of this page is going to be the connection page here on the left side of the screen. So like I said, Tableau can connect to a wide variety of data sources, whether those are coming from flat files like an Excel sheet, a PDF, a text file. We also have native connectors to various server or database instances. So things like Google Analytics, BigQuery, Snowflake's a big one, Postgres, MySQL. All of these guys are basically the tip of the iceberg when it comes to connecting to your data. So with all of that being said, we are actually going to be using a data set that comes preloaded with Tableau. It's called our Superstore data set. And you can see that data set saved here on the bottom of the screen. So click on Sample Superstore if you see that. So now it's going to pop you out to this window, and it's basically telling you, all right, get started, start making some visualizations. But I always think it's really important to become more familiar with your data before you even begin any type of visualization. Actually, prior to working for Tableau, I was an analyst and spent too much of my time familiarizing myself with data, coming from all kinds of departments. But, it's definitely a good thing to at least recognize what a single row of your data means. So with that being said, we are looking at our sample Superstore connection, which is shown here in the top left. So within this one Excel sheet that I have, this one Excel file that I'm connected to, there are multiple sheets or tabs. So within my Superstore connection, I have an orders table, I have a people table, and a returns table. Now, typically when people are like, oh, I have all these tables, I want to bring them all together and begin visualizing, few things should kind of be popping off in your head. The first thing is going to be, oh, they want to join their data together. You know, doing those simple SQL type queries with an inner join or a outer join, left join, right joins, all of that fun stuff we can do natively here within this interface. We can also do things like create a union. But the new feature that we've implemented is actually creating relationships with these data sets or these connection types. Now I'm gonna try and trick one of you guys. What is the difference between a join and a relationship? Does anybody know? That's okay if you don't. So when you think of creating a join or a union with your table, what you're doing is you're actually taking all the data within those two sets and you're mushing them into one. So you're going to have this one master table with all of your data in it, which is great. You know, some people love having a master table. Personally, I don't like that because I find that once you start getting into the millions and billions of rows of data, you'll start seeing a little bit of a performance lag. So Tableau implemented this new feature called a relationship, which basically just takes these two data sets or these two sheets and relates them off of some type of primary or foreign key. So here we're looking at, you know, the unique order ID, which is shown in both of these tables. And then I'm able to set various cardinalities, so on and so forth. So the nice thing just to reiterate, the joins push everything in one table, whereas creating a relationship keeps the data separately and only references the certain rows or fields that you need, which makes it actually a lot more performant. So also on this page, we can talk about the two types of connections that we have. So the default behavior with Tableau is going to be to connect live to your data. So what does that mean? It's exactly what you think, that anytime you interact with a visualization, click on a chart, make a selection, Tableau is going to query all the way back to your data source to pull the most recent data. So you're constantly going to be piped in with fresh data, and you know it's always going to be updating. Whereas an extract, on the other hand, you can think of it as being an in-memory snapshot of your data in a specific date and time. So right now, I'm creating an extract on January 19th at 6:28 and 15 seconds. It's going to take that snapshot, and anytime I reference this workbook, it's going to use that data from today's date at 6:28 and 15 seconds. Now, you're not stuck with just using, you know, that static data. You can create what's called extract refreshes to come in and refresh that data on a specific schedule that you need. So if you need data to be updated every other week, or you know, once a quarter, or every 3 days, whatever that cadence is that you need, Tableau can accommodate to. So moving on from our connection types, we've talked about the difference between unions, joins, and relationships. And then we can start looking at this page down here. So like I said in the beginning, before I jumped into this data source page, is that you need to be familiar with your data and really recognize what a single row of data means. So within this data set, a single row going across horizontally is simply just relating to an individual item within a order. So we can have one order, but multiple items within that order. So you can see we have order ID, we have California 2019, 1521, 156. We have that order ID replicated because Claire purchased both bookcases and chairs within this one order. So this is going to be important kind of moving forward, but it's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind as we move forward. Another thing to keep in mind here are these little icons you're seeing above the field names. So above order ID, I'm seeing a little ABC. Order date, I'm seeing what looks like kind of a funky little calendar. Now, that's really important for Tableau. So you can think of these data types being a type of metadata. If you're not familiar with what metadata is, to break that down, it basically just means data about your data. Now, that is a little confusing because data about data doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But you can think of it as, like posting something to your Instagram. Think of your main data, your data, as being the photo, the actual object that you're posting. Whereas the metadata is going to be things like, the time you posted that photo, the date you posted the photo, the location where the photo was taken, the location where you were when you posted the photo, or even how many likes that photo got. So all of these characteristics are considered metadata. So data about your data. And it's important to keep that in mind because you can change the metadata here within Tableau, which ultimately is going to really optimize and help you standardize when you use this data source later. And I'll explain a little bit more what I mean by that in a second. So jumping back to data types and data roles, we have a date being recognized as a date field. We have an order ID being recognized as a string field because it's a combination of both letters and numbers. We have another string field here being recognized as our ship mode. But it gets really unique when we start looking at things like geographic fields. Tableau is incredible when it comes to mapping. One of the neat things about this is, okay, we're not just recognizing that California is a geographic field, but we're recognizing that California actually is a state. And this little piece is going to really come into play once we begin building out visualizations right now. So moving from the data source page, all I did was click sheet 1. Is everybody with me here, or did anybody get lost? All right, if anyone gets lost, feel free to stop me. Okay, so before we actually start doing any type of visualization, creating those bar charts, I'm going to familiarize you all with the interface you're seeing. It's a little overwhelming, but I promise you it's going to make sense in just a second. So we're looking at our data pane here. You're seeing, okay, we have one connection to our sample Superstore data set. And within this data set, we have various tables. So we're looking at those 3 tables that we were just seeing here: orders, people, returns. And within those tables, you're able to see the various fields, or I like to call them pills, because they kind of look like a weird pill. But those are the various fields within those individual tables. So from here, we have our tables, we got our fields. Why are they divided up like this? Well, Tableau has recognized, okay, all of these guys on the top are actually going to be your categorical fields. So things you want to slice and dice your data by, where the fields on the bottom are going to be more of your numerical fields, things you want to aggregate, create, sums or averages, create differences from. All of the heavy calculations you're thinking of doing, probably going to be coming from these fields down at the bottom. And then from here, we have what's called our marks card. So the marks card is this little box right in the middle. And this is going to be how you start customizing and changing the visualizations that you make. You're able to layer on some additional analysis with things like color and size. That is all going to become more apparent to you in just a moment. Next, we have our rows and columns, which is going to be, one way of how we build out charts. And then finally, we have the Show Me tool. So if you remember all the way back before my giant spiel, I said that Tableau was meant not just for, heavy technical users like analysts, but it's meant to be used by any and everybody. And what I mean by that is Tableau's implemented this Show Me option so that you can select a few, fields or pills that you want to analyze. You're not sure how to analyze them. Tableau will actually give you recommendations on charts based off your variable selections. So there's a little bit of hand holding that Tableau does. I think that's just, I think that is just so cool. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Does anybody have any questions before we start building our first bar chart? Alrighty, cool. So we are going to begin with a bar chart, like I just said. So bar charts, really helpful when it comes to comparing data or values across various categories. You're going to want to use it to compare quantitative measures and numbers. So you probably think where I'm going with this. If we're going to be comparing categories, we can start with something like sales and drag and drop our sales onto rows. And you should have one massive bar that is just populated. Now, that bar is all of your sales aggregated into one value. So we're looking at about $2.2 million worth of sales across our entire country. But we can begin splitting it up and slicing and dicing our data by the fields on the top right here. So we can start with something like category. Now we're looking at, okay, looks like I can sort these guys. Our highest selling is going to be technology, followed by furniture, and then office supplies. But, blue, same color blue bars. This doesn't tell me anything other than technology is the highest selling. Well, we can start layering on things like profit onto our colors. So we're not just saying, okay, our technology is our highest selling as far as sales go, but regarding profit, it also is our highest seller. But next down, you see our second highest seller is our lowest profit. Now, these kind of insights wouldn't really come so naturally to you if you were looking at something like a giant crosstab. So when you look at things like this, it's not so easy to pull insights out of. I mean, I don't think this is very insightful. So using things like bar charts, maps, layering profit onto colors really adds a lot of flavor to these visualizations. So from here, we can then begin pivoting our columns and our rows so that things can be a little bit easier to read. And if I wanted to switch back, I just hit the same button up here and it'll flip me right back. And the same thing goes with sorting. There's no crazy calculation you need to type in or figure out how to write to do this. It's all very, very easy. So from this visualization, we built it out using the drag and drop method, where I dragged my sum of sales out to my rows and columns shelf, and then my category and subcategory out. Now, one of the things that I realized I just totally skimmed over is this little icon right here. So this kind of weird diagram you're seeing represents a hierarchy. Now, what is a hierarchy? A hierarchy is simply a parent-child relationship between some of the fields you have. So, and probably an easier way of thinking of this would be, having a postal code. So something really, really small within a, within a county that rolls up to the city level, which then rolls up to the state level, and then the country, so on and so forth. So the nice thing about creating these hierarchies is that you're able to drill down further into your data. So rather than giving my end user a view that looks like this, which isn't that pretty, I can stay at a higher aggregated level and just allow my end user to drill down and get the insights from exactly the level of granularity that they're looking for. So before I move on into the next chart that we're going to begin building, does anybody have any questions or anyone kind of stuck in a specific spot? I'm happy to go over.
I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I am not sure if I understand really the marks thing that you did on the left side. So I understand that you wrote like the profit over there, but like how did it like change the the visualization? It's like I'm trying to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So the marks card is gonna, sorry if you hear my chair squeaking. The marks card is gonna be one way to kind of layer analysis into your visualization, but it also allows you to really customize what you're seeing. So in my example, I just took this profit field, I drag and dropped it onto the color square, and then it went and applied this gradient scheme, the color scheme, telling me that, okay, my really low profits are going to be shown in dark orange, where my high profits are going to be shown in dark blue. So it really calls out that, okay, your copiers are your highest profit, but your tables are my lowest profit, yet it's one of my top sellers. So it kind of helps guide you into asking these questions, which is going to help you really dig in and get some more insights in your data. Now, on the contrary of using color, we can change, the size of our bar charts. We can begin adding labels, so you don't need to hover over specific fields to get those values. In addition to actually just completely changing the type of visualization that we're looking at. So instead of looking at bars, I could swap it over to a line. Or I could do like an area chart. I'm going to leave it at bar just for the sake of keeping it pretty. Did that answer your question, or was that a bit more confusing?
Yeah, I'm also sorry. I was looking at another computer. I have like two screens going on.
It's okay.
So I'm actually using that. But I think I understand. So basically, you're trying to analyze two things at the same time, like the sales by the numbers and the marks that you just, like the labels that you added, but like through colors and with that index, you're also trying to understand the profit, that even though the sales is as much, like how much is profitable.
Correct. Yeah.
That's
it's
pretty awesome.
It's just kind of another way of layering some insights that, would probably require you to build an additional chart. So, kind of taking two things, smushing them into one, it's huge time saver, huge time saver.
Yep. I cannot agree enough. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome. What other questions do you all have? Or did anybody get stuck somewhere or get lost? No problem. That is perfectly okay. Alrighty. So from here, we're going to click on this little button down at the bottom. It's like a box with some bars and the plus sign. And this is going to bring us to our next sheet. So from here, we're going to begin building out a map, which is one of my favorite things to show off in Tableau. So the bars that we just made, we created that using the drag and drop functionality. And like I said, there are multiple ways of building visualizations within Tableau. So I'm going to show you a second method of building. So what you're going to do is you're going to double click on the state field. Does everybody see state? And if you don't see state, just select this little caret next to location, and it should drop down the hierarchy with those fields. So everyone double click on state. We should see this pretty okay map get rendered. Pretty good start. And just like we did in the last example, we're going to take that profit field, we're going to drag it and drop it onto color. So what this has done is it's taken all of our states and has filled it in with the same gradient scale we were looking at from sheet 1. But now it's just calling out specific states that I should be, looking back at. So things like Texas, it's a huge red flag. Texas is a heavily populated state. Why are we having such low profits? Same thing with California and New York. These are huge, huge states, and we're having the highest profit there, which isn't a huge surprise, but it makes me wonder what's going on with Texas or Florida. So using color, maps, mixing and matching some of the features really is going to unleash a lot of underlying insights within your data. So from here, I'm actually going to be turning it over to Julianne, and Julianne is going to continue with the demonstration and really put a nice little bow on it for you guys.
Cool. Thanks, Megan. So I'll go ahead and start sharing my screen with y'all. Okay, so let's go ahead and open up a new sheet again, just down here at the bottom. And the next sheet we want to do is maybe we want to look into more some timeline analysis, right? So Megan just kind of showed us how we were having those profit issues. If I go back here with Texas, and then if we look at our bar charts again, there were some issues with tables and bookcases not being super profitable. So let's go ahead and take a look into how long these issues have been happening. So go ahead and bring your order date up to our columns here. And then let's bring our profit onto our rows. And now we just have a nice little line chart. This looks nice. It gives us what we're looking for. But let's go ahead and actually drill down further into our dates. So instead of looking at by the year, let's go ahead and click on that little plus button. So going back into those hierarchies kind of that Megan was talking about, and get down to the month. It's really cool because Tableau can actually go down all the way to the day, but this is a little bit much for us to look at. So just go ahead and drag day off and quarter as well so that it looks a little bit smoother. So there we have it. That's just a very simple timeline. It's just showing us that looks like our profits hit a peak here in December of 2019. And this has kind of had some odd patterns throughout. But let's say you were actually interested in looking at a different type of analysis. Well, Tableau has these really cool things called table calculations that we can go ahead and use and apply to this view. So if you hover over this green pill here, this sum of profit, you'll see it has a little down caret. Go ahead and click on that and go all the way to the bottom here where it says quick table calculation. So these are just common calculations that you might want to use to apply to your visualization. So things like if you want a running total, you want to maybe rank your months by whatever ones had the highest percentages. If you wanted to do a percent of total, so seeing how each of those makes up the whole, you could absolutely do that. But let's go ahead and look at year-over-year growth, because we want to know how much our profit has changed or grown over the months and over the years. So go ahead and click on year-over-year growth. And now that's going to give us just a totally different type of analysis, right? Because originally we were looking at just our profits. Now we're seeing how that's changed in comparison to past years. And you'll notice that 2017 doesn't have any data here. And that's because 2017 is our first year in the data set. So we just don't have any data to compare it to. So that's totally normal and fine that there's no data here. So again, just wanting to look at this timeline chart, we can actually see that we really haven't made as much growth since March of 2018. So all of these little dips here have been pretty insignificant in comparison to the growth we had in March 2018. It's really leveled off since then, which isn't too great for the organization, but that's how the cookie crumbles, I suppose, for our Superstore. So go ahead. I want to show you guys how you can rename the sheets real quick. You can just double click where it says sheet 3 on the bottom here. That's the easiest way that I like to do it. And you could name it whatever you want. I'm just going to name it timeline. And you'll notice I also named my other sheets just because I think it's helpful for organizational purposes. You don't have to if you don't want to, though. So now that we made this line chart, let's go ahead and actually put all of these things together in a dashboard. So that will be this kind of square down here. It has like 4 little windows. That's what I like to think of it as. Go ahead and click that to create a new dashboard. And so the dashboard is going to be where actually all of these different sheets are working together, really where you can find the relationships in between your data, see how all of them interact, and really get more insights into the data set. And to do that, it's going to be very similar to how we were building out those sheets. So we'll just break our bars and drop it into the white space. We'll take our map, and you'll notice that as I drag it out, it's going to create these kind of like gray highlighted areas. That's showing you where the sheet will be dropped if you let go of your mouse. So I'm going to go ahead and put it over here on the right side of our bar chart. Actually, no, I'm going to put that on the left side. I think that might look better, but up to you how you want to do it. And then finally, let's bring out our timeline and put that on the bottom. So make sure it's filling up all of our bottom space here. And then just for aesthetic purposes, I'm going to move our color legend. You totally don't have to. It just bothers me that it shows up on the right-hand side. So I wanted to change that. Okay. So here we have it. Here is our dashboard. And I had mentioned that when you start to put things in the dashboard, that's where you can really see the connections between the different sheets and find more insights in the data. So one way we're going to do this is by adding a filter action. So go ahead and click into your map here so that it highlights in this dark gray bar, and then click this little funnel icon that says use as filter. So what this is going to do is it's going to essentially make this map act as a filter for the rest of our sheets. So as we click into this, the rest of our sheets are going to update accordingly to show us the relevant data. So we can try this out by maybe clicking into Texas here, since that's clearly a problem with profit. So let's click into Texas. And then once my data is sent to the server, it's going to update everything else accordingly. So now we're looking at sales and profits for all of our different subcategories in Texas, as well as just seeing the timeline for Texas orders. Now we can see that based on our color legend, again, binders are actually doing really poorly within Texas. This is our lowest, or least profitable subcategory of things that we sell at the Superstore. So again, to look into this just one more time, go ahead and click on your bars and add that same filter action so that we can look more into binders. So once we've done that, click on binders here, and it'll update, again, our timeline. So we've actually never had a profitable sale with binders. If we look at our axes over here, the baseline right here is 0, and we've only had a negative profit. So that is not good. Now, we could totally finish up here, or we could continue to look into why this might be happening. So just to see if we could figure out what's going on with the binders, let's go ahead and create one last sheet and put it back in to our dashboard to see if we can find the issue. So go ahead, click on your new sheet again, and this will be our final building of the night. So for this one, Megan had earlier highlighted this show me button, and that's what we're going to use to create this next chart. So let's say we're not exactly sure how we want to visualize our next sheet, but we know we want to take a look at profit. And I'm just going to multi-select. I'm using a Windows computer, so for that, you're just going to hold down Control. To be honest, I'm not exactly sure how you do that in Mac. Maybe Shift or Alt, Megan, do you know what to do? You have a Mac?
It's Command.
Command, okay. So if you have a Mac, you're going to use Command to multi-select. So I want to look at profit here. Let's take a look at our subcategories, and then let's also take a look at discounts. And then if you go over to our Show Me button in the top right, it's going to give us a bunch of different ways in which we can visualize this, right? So you'll notice it now has color on a pie chart. It has shown us maybe a bar chart would look good, but the best way to visualize it is always going to be highlighted here in this orange box. So Tableau is telling us a scatter plot is going to be the best way to visualize this data. Let's go ahead and click it. Okay, this looks all right. But the nice thing about Tableau, which I think Megan has done a great job at highlighting already, is that it's not static. So it's not like in Excel when you try to make a pivot chart and it gives you like 2 options of what you can do, right? We have multiple ways we can make this look different. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and actually change our discount and our profit axes and just flip them. So you can go ahead and click this button at top to flip our axes. Instead of looking at the sum of our discount, because that is giving us really high numbers and we know we're not giving a 550% discount on something, we can actually change the aggregation of this. So again, if you hover over our discount and click this little caret, let's go ahead and click average instead. That's much better. Now these are a lot more realistic numbers. And then finally, I don't like how this is all different colors for a subcategory. It can get a little confusing. So go ahead and just move subcategory. You see it has these colors here. Just click on that and we'll put it on detail instead. So now they're all just going to be the same color. Yeah, I can definitely go over how I link the visualizations to the dashboard. So I'm going to go back. So for that, you'll just click on the different sheets here. You'll see this one is highlighted in this gray bar. That's how you know you've clicked into it. And just click this funnel button. Won't be highlighted yet because you haven't clicked it, but you'll just click on that till it turns white, and that's how you'll be able to filter in. And you'll do the same thing for the maps.
I have a question.
Sure.
So for the maps sheet, can you show the sheet again? I think I didn't write my like rows and columns in the right way. I wanted to get that right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. So for our maps, you can just drag out your state to either detail here or in the white space. Since I already built it, it's showing it all out. But basically, if I make a new sheet, you can just bring out your state to the white space here. And that will generate the map. And then to get that filled in, we'll bring profits to color in the marks card.
Oh, interesting. Because I actually got confused, with the longitude and latitudes. Like, how did you get that in the rows and columns? But yeah, this is like kind of confusing because you're like, sometimes you're putting things in the marks, that box, and then sometimes you're putting stuff into like the rows and columns. So yeah.
Yeah, no worries. The reason these are showing up here is because if I go out, we had mentioned that we have these little globe icons here on like city, state, country. So it's recognizing that this is an actual geographic location. So when we drag out state here, it's automatically just generating where the latitude and longitude is, and that's what's creating the map. Yeah, so we're not actually putting them here, they're just automatically generated. And then the marks card, really you can just think of this as a way to kind of more like, I guess, like further design the data. So if you wanted to add color, that's how you add color. If you wanted to change the size, that's where you can change the size, add the labels. You won't like really be using it to build the visualizations per se. That'll more be through the dragging or adding to columns and rows. This is just where you can like further add different design elements or change how you want it to look.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Great questions also, you guys. Okay, so I'll go back into this sheet 4 where we were making the scatter plot. And based on this right now, if we go ahead and look at our average discount, there are 3 kind of standout subcategories here that have high discounts. And it looks like this highest one is actually binders with an average discount of 37%. So this is probably why Texas is having a lot of those issues with their profits. If we're handing out really high discounts, that makes sense it wouldn't be as profitable. But to double check on this, instead of looking at subcategory, what might be helpful instead is looking at this by our order IDs. So looking at every single order we've made in Texas and then identifying which ones have been for binders. So let's go ahead and bring order ID. And I'm just going to drag it on top of where we have subcategory here to replace it. So now we'll be looking at order IDs instead. And to see if there's any trends, go ahead and click on this analytics pane up here. This is where you can add some more kind of advanced techniques to prove out what you're looking at. So let's bring a trend line out. But you see we have a bunch of different options, average lines, box plots, etc. Go ahead, click on trend line. Let's add a linear line. And boom, it's brought out our trend line here. And if you enjoy math, like Megan does, she studied stats in school, you'll be excited because it includes the R-squared in p-values, which is important for statisticians. So that's pretty cool that it adds that natively. So go ahead and rename your sheet to whatever you want to, just to keep on track of it. I'm going to name mine discount. And once you're done, we'll go back into our dashboard to add that in. So just like we did with the other ones, go ahead, grab your discount, drag it out, and I'm going to put it in the right-hand bottom corner here. And then let's just start at the beginning. So you can deselect Texas, and we had selected binders. Go ahead and deselect those just so we can start fresh from the beginning and see how binders are affected by discounts. So now starting at the beginning, you'll remember Texas had the worst profit issues. Let's click on Texas. From here, we determined binders have been the worst subcategory in terms of profitability. So we'll click into binders. And since we've added in this discount sheet, we can now see that we have never sold a binder in Texas that had a discount lower than 80%, which is very high, and is probably the reason why we've never sold a profitable binder in Texas, right? These discounts are just way too high to make any profits. So that is going to be pretty good, I would say, for the dashboard we make. And then you can click on this button down here that says Show Dashboard Title and give that a title however you want. I'm going to say discounts in Texas equals bad. You can give it whatever you want, but this obviously is calling out what I want my end user to see, is that discounts are a huge issue in Texas, specifically on the binders. So are there any questions on building this out before we publish to Tableau Public?
Hi, I have two questions. So the first one is, Julianne, how did you get the profit bar at the top?
This one here.
Yes.
So what I did was clicked on it. It was going to be over here. I just clicked and dragged, just like you did with all of the other sheets.
Got it. And my next question is, so for the discount, it still shows the linear line. It doesn't show the straight horizontal dots, like the circles. How did
this one's here. All right, let's go to the sheet. So check that you have discount on your columns and then profit on your rows. That could be why it's showing along this axis.
Okay. Discount and profit. I have it in the same way. Discount and profit. Yeah.
You may also have the sum of discount applied rather than the average discount.
That's
that might
true.
be throwing it off too.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so there's a question about resizing the sheets. I'm going to go back in. So what I did was just click on the sheet, so the map, for example, and when you hover over one of its borders, so this bottom one, you'll see it has this little arrow. That's how you can resize it. So I could drag it lower, drag it higher to resize the maps, and subsequently also the timeline. And that's how you can resize them. Same with if you wanted them to move this way as well. If you wanted your bars and discounts to take up more room, you could also do that with maps.
For some reason, I'm able to reduce it vertically, but not reduce it horizontally. So I don't know. I'm hovering over that thing for quite some time. It's weird.
Were you able to click into the sheet?
Yeah.
Okay. And would it work if you did it at the top as well?
Yeah, that's not happening actually. It's I'm not able to expand my profit bar on the top the way you have.
This one.
Yeah, the profit one. Yeah. So it's I'm not able to put it on the top. Across the... Okay, well, okay, never mind. I think I just did it. Okay, yeah, I think I just did it. Never mind.
Awesome.
That's good.
Yeah, no problem. It can be a little tricky sometimes getting it exactly how you want it. And one thing I was going to mention for folks that are into design, what we're using right now, it's called tiled, a tiled object. I'm just moving my screen real quick so I can see my monitor, but you'll find that over here in the left-hand corner where it says objects. We're using what's called tiled, which essentially just means it's going to resize kind of automatically and as you put them down. But once you get really good at dashboard design, a lot of folks end up preferring floating. And essentially this just lets you place an object wherever you want. So don't copy this because it will make your dashboard look kind of funky, but I'm going to just click floating and bring out a horizontal one here. And you'll see you could just place this wherever you want and then put a sheet inside of the, put it inside of the floating container. So a lot of folks end up using that once they get really good at dashboard design, because then it allows you to be a little bit more flexible with how you put things together in the dashboard. I'm going to remove that for now though, because we don't really need that. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to follow along here. Again, ask us questions if you have any. But for those that are ready, the last part of the workshop is going to be actually publishing this to Tableau Public. So because you guys are using the student version, you'll have to let me know if you can access it this way. But for me, how I would publish is I will click on this server at the top of our toolbar here and say Tableau Public, save to Tableau Public. Is that the same for you guys, or do you not have that option? I'm going to assume that means you guys do have the option, which is great. So once you are able to go over Save to Tableau Public, just click that. And then it'll have you sign in to your Tableau Public page. So So I'll sign in with you guys. Oops. And then you'll click sign in. Okay, it's telling me it doesn't want to permit that because of my extract, because I did not create one. That's okay. You would just need to go back to your data source. And I'll make that extract real quick.
If you're creating like a new account, then should we sign in through our university email, or like, is it okay for you to sign up using our personal email?
Whatever works best for you. It doesn't matter which one you use for the account.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just saved the extract. So now I'll be able to publish. So trying that again. Okay, then it'll ask you what you want to name it. I'll just name this Julianne example. Click save. And now it's going to be actually publishing that workbook to Tableau Public. And I'll show you what that looks like. And hopefully this will be working for you guys too, so that you have one on your Tableau Public page.
I'm getting the same error you just got about the extract thing. How did you fix that?
Sure. So if you go back into the data source pane, that first place we looked at when Megan was starting, you have the different options to do live and extract. Click on the extract here. And then it'll ask you to save it. You can save. And then once you go back to the dashboard, then you should be able to publish it, no problem.
Cool. Thank you.
And the reason it does that, guys, is because Tableau Public, since it's a public platform, it's not like an enterprise deployment. It only allows for extracts, so you can't use live connections with Tableau Public. Okay, so once you publish that, here's what it's going to look like. You can interact with this just as you would in Tableau Desktop. So if you wanted to look at Nebraska, you could look at Nebraska instead. You could look at Nebraska furnishings. It has the exact same interactivity as we had in Tableau Desktop, but now just on the web. And this will be there for you guys to check at any time. Now, I wanted to actually show y'all Tableau Public really quick because it's honestly a really cool tool. It has so many different visualizations. This is showing you my favorites page. And you can see they have data on literally everything. I picked one that I specifically wanted to show you. It's called The Air We Breathe because I think it looks so cool. I definitely am not at this skill level to make something this pretty, but this is just to show you like the different types of visualizations you make, how you can make your dashboards look really pretty and also effective too, right? Like this is still telling us a story about healthy, moderate, and unhealthy air quality. This was actually the winner of Tableau's data visualization competition called Iron Viz, which we have at our annual conference. And so you can tell this person is really good at what they do. But anyways, the point being is that using Tableau Public, you could literally look up anything you're interested in, whether that's like fantasy football, Nintendo sales, even something about the environment like this, and guaranteed someone's going to have made a visualization about that. So I really like to use Tableau Public when I want inspiration or ideas on how to build a viz that I'm not really sure how to create. I like to look at Tableau Public for that and just interested in what other people are building. So time check, it is 7:13. I know we've gone a bit over. Just the last thing I wanted to show you, because Chris mentioned that some of you guys might be interested in AI and how Tableau is kind of going into that space. I don't have anything in terms of a demo, but I did want to tell you guys about Tableau CRM. So for those of you that don't know, Tableau is actually part of Salesforce. So we were bought by Salesforce, acquired by them last year. And so we're now working on all the integrations of getting Salesforce and Tableau kind of as one company. And part of that is using Tableau CRM. So this used to be called Einstein Analytics, and it's basically the kind of AI predictions part of Salesforce's analytics platform. I'll go ahead and post this link in the chat for anybody that's interested in taking a look at this. It just has more information on what that's going to look like in the future, because right now it's on the roadmap, but we don't know specifically all of the things that are going to be integrated. But the one thing I can speak about here is just the Einstein analytics predictions. So essentially, our awesome devs and product managers are working on creating a dashboard extension that you just saw here. They clicked on this little Einstein character once it replays, this little guy here, and clicking that, it showed the end users different predictions showing like what might have gotten the data to this point. So like how many people viewed in-app help. It's going to show you the different things that might have affected that. So that's kind of like the direction that Tableau CRM is going in, and that Tableau is trying to integrate more into the product. And there will definitely be more on that within this next year, I would imagine. But so far, this is kind of all Megan and I know about it, as much as the public does, since we're still in the process of integrating. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen unless you guys have any more questions on the building or publishing aspect of it. We're happy to answer any questions about that or Tableau. Thanks for coming, you guys. We really enjoyed doing this and love talking about Tableau. Seriously, I could talk about it all day, every day. I think it's so fun. So yeah, thanks for having us, guys. I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you, Julianne and Megan, for your really informative workshop. Does anyone have any questions? You can go ahead and unmute or type in the chat. All right. Chris, would you like to? Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, Megan, I just saw your cat. I think it's lovely.
Thank you. He likes to watch my screen.
I was wondering, about how I can practice Tableau, personally, just because I know, I've done Tableau visualizations earlier a little bit, but today it was a little bit more, which was, I learned a lot. It's when I'm working in a project that I understand what I need to do, but how can I find open source data sets, and how I can sort of practice on them by myself?
That is a great question. The first thing that came to mind, and I'm going to throw this one in the chat as well. It's called Data World. They have a ton of open source data sets that you can use to practice. I just put that in the chat there. We also have, if you're specifically wanting to get better at Tableau, there's this really cool, it's kind of like a competition, I guess you could say, thing called Makeover Monday. That's also within Data World. I'll find the link for that. But essentially, Makeover Monday gives you a data set. It's usually pretty simple. There really isn't a lot to it. But essentially, the point is to recreate the original visualization. So whatever the data set is, it'll have a link to maybe a news article that originally had a viz, and then asks you to recreate it and basically try to find another way to visualize it. I'm posting that one in the link. Oh, and Megan also put in a Tableau Public resources that has a bunch of sample data too. But I would probably suggest looking at those for the open source data sets, and then specifically for practicing Tableau, trying to get involved with Makeover Monday. There's also a ton of resources on our website. I'm gonna find that one where they have a bunch of different videos. They're all free for you to look at. And Megan and I actually used these to prep for our interviews at Tableau, so we can attest to the quality. They are great ways to learn the product. I'm putting that in here now too. So that last link I sent are getting started with Tableau, and it has a bunch of different videos that you can look at to get more acquainted with the platform.
And another thing to mention, if I know this is kind of a cheat, but if you have questions about Tableau, we have a huge following. I mean, you can Google any type of question. There are all kinds of forums and communities that, people are actively engaging and trying to help each other with, We even have a Reddit community, and people love to ask questions on Reddit. So, I mean, there's a lot out there. Tableau has a huge community. They're super supportive. So if you want any type of feedback on visualizations or have questions, there are a lot of places that you can go.
Sounds great.
Great question. Any other questions? If not, totally okay too.
I think we had another question in chat. I'm not sure if it was answered completely, but are there any other resource that people can do to like keep learning, I guess? I think it kind of referred to the first question, but I'm wondering if there's anything else.
Yeah, I also have a few little cheat sheets that I like to show off. Let me drop these in the chat. So basically what I'm about to share with you, you know what, let me just share my screen and show you. Alrighty, so what we're looking at here, once I share my screen, is basically a Tableau Viz Cookbook. So what this means is, this is a huge list of different type of charts that you can make within Tableau. This is by no means like the dead set list. There's a lot more you can do outside of this. But you see something, you want to try and replicate that, well, you can come in and click on something like a donut chart, and then you're going to be redirected to a description and a recipe and a couple of examples of how to create that type of chart. So this is going to be really helpful when you start moving beyond things like the standard bar chart. In addition to that one, another really common visualization that people use are called KPIs, which are key performance indicators. Opposed to just, spitting out one number, you can begin layering on additional insights into that tiny little viz that you create. And this dashboard also kind of shows you the pros and cons to each one, and you can download some of these workbooks and actually reverse engineer them. So if you see something that someone's created out on Tableau's Viz of the Day and you want to recreate that, you could just go in, download it, and see kind of how they worked it in the back end. So that's one really neat way that I kind of like to take matters into my own hands, so to speak, when it comes to learning. But we also have a bunch of free videos that are posted from our most recent Tableau conference. Because it was hosted virtually, a lot of the sessions have been posted onto YouTube. So things like visualization best practices, or, kind of one-upping some of those dashboards. We even have very specific niche topics like dashboarding for healthcare, and we have all of our healthcare customers go to these sessions. So, there are so many resources I could send out about learning Tableau that, you would end up with a novel. But I will definitely drop these Tableau Public links in the chat. I think the final one I'm going to want to show off is this bar chart menu, which is just another way of taking just a basic bar chart and kind of amping that up. So you can create lollipop charts or stacked bar charts, kind of things like that. So, once you really learn the basics, from there, it kind of just turns into, becoming like a dashboarding master of, formatting things a certain way, getting visualizations to look a certain way, conditional formatting, all that kind of stuff. We have so many resources online about.
All right, great. Thank you so much again for you two for coming in to showing us what Tableau is all about. Just a last couple of reminders about if you guys are interested in our events or want to continue staying in touch, Michelle and I do have a couple of resources. The first thing I'm going to send to our chat is just our newsletter for Bits. If you want to just stay connected with Bits or figure out or see other events we're doing in the future, I definitely would recommend subscribing to that. One other link that I also want to send everyone, if you're interested, is Michelle also set up a Discord for DubsTech. So if you wanted to get more involved in DubsTech, or even she'll also make a channel for Bits too. If you want to learn more about Bits more personally, you can go over there. But yeah, besides that, I want to thank everybody for coming today. And for those who stayed, thank you for staying for so long. But yeah, besides that, this is the end of the event, and I really appreciate all your guys' time here.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Feel free to add us on LinkedIn. We're happy to keep in touch with you all.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Julian. Thank you so much, Megan.
Take
You're
care.
so welcome.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the rest of your evening.
Bye.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.
This was really good.
Aw,
Good
I'm
time.
glad to hear it. Take care, guys.